Hey, y'all, it is episode 302 of the Late Night Vision Show. I am Hans, one half of the show. And with me, as always, I'm going to get right into it because we got a very big review. But to get into it directly, the owner of Outdoor Legacy, in his underground off-grid bunker, somewhere remote, we can't tell you why. We are pleased to have you, Jason. But well, I guess you're not really off-grid because you're talking on the phone and you're on we're on the
Yeah,
using internet right now.
I'm using Starlink, so I do have to
Starlink,
use
yes,
satellite to
somewhere.
get internet.
We
Yeah,
talked
no,
about the doing this show, for 301 weeks without missing a week, and how sometimes that can be difficult. Right now, you're on a family trip, and we're having to record this.
yep,
You're taking time away from your family to record it, so
yeah,
yeah,
they're
it's
all tapping their toe, ready to go eat supper,
go eat. Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah, so no, that's right. But we the podcast goes on,
must go on.
so that's right. Glad to be here, Hans. Listen, man, Conway Farms
Yeah,
annual predator hunt this last weekend, and I know that you hunted in it. Y'all have a bunch of teams.
yeah.
I know people want to hear about this hybrid review, but just give us a rundown of what went on at the tournament.
So, thank you for that. A lot of not sleeping, a lot of rain, a lot of mud. It wasn't cold. There were 40 teams actually that entered the contest this year, which is much larger than it's ever been. Normally we have half of that. So there were 40 teams. We I hunt with Tucker and Blake and Monty. We have a team. We've done it since year one. And again, I'm glad to report back to the company, and me being a representative of Outdoor Legacy. Again, for the sixth year in a row, we did not embarrass ourselves. So that means we did show up with coyotes to weigh in. We didn't win. We've only won one year, but the competition gets great every year. We ended, I mean, honestly, it stormed all night long. We ended up with four coyotes, a fox, and a hog. We had some side pots going on. Not a lot, not a lot of action. It rained and poured most of the time. We only had a few hours of huntable time, but it was fun. We always have a good
What
time.
place did you get?
So we didn't get money, but it came out to
That's
be
all that matters.
I think sixth or seventh out of 40 teams.
That's
So
pretty good. I'll
respectable.
take
I can
that.
come to work on
That's
Monday with my head
respectable.
high, and
Yes.
my boss isn't going to be looking for a replacement, for these hunting
No,
contests. But anyway,
not yet.
want to thank Outdoor Legacy. They obviously title sponsor every year. Also, Outdoors, AGM USA donated, along with Outdoor Legacy, a monocular, a Sidewinder monocular. So it was a good turnout, a lot of good door prizes. But let's get into what people are looking for. We have a official review of the Infiray Outdoor. This is the Hybrid 75, y'all. This is the one that I took to the Conway Farms predator hunt. This is the one I hunted with. It might have been a little bit overboard. I don't know for where we hunt, but I've got a lot of information. I got a lot of time behind this. Jason and Ashley do too. We are ready to give you this review, and I tell you, there's a lot going on with this scope. But as far as buzz from SHOT Show 2024, this scope might have created the most buzz coming home from Las Vegas from SHOT Show 2024.
A couple things, guys. One, because I'm on a satellite connection, there's a little bit of a delay
There
between
is.
Hans and I. So if you see us talking over each other, that's what's going on.
It's the
There's about a
same as
couple
every
second
year,
delay between
every
us.
time, every show. We're
Yeah.
always, but even when we have direct,
Yeah. Yeah, there's always
yeah,
a delay.
yeah.
But guys, listen, this scope, I know we always say this is an exciting review. We say that every time. We try to not say that. But I am going to tell you that I think this scope, there's another word that Hans hates. It's a term, and I don't want to use it, game changer.
Don't
He
even
hates that.
use it.
But I will say this, what this scope is. This scope offers and does something, I believe, that no other scope on the market today, I guess I'm going to say ever, to this point, has done as well as this scope does. It is a scope that a lot of you have been asking for, have been waiting on. And so this is a really, really big deal. This is a very specific scope. It is not for everybody, but the people that it is for, I think it's going to be what they've been waiting on. It's going to be perfect for them, and they're going to eat it up. We've already sold a good many of these. Guys are snatching these things up. They're very, very good. So, guys, I'm going to go right on into it. Again, I'm not in my normal location, so doing things a little bit different. I'm reading specs off a phone, which I normally have got all paper, but I didn't have a printer here. So I'm going to go on with this. So this is the Infiray Outdoor, distributed by iRay USA. It is the Hybrid 75, the Rico Hybrid 75. That's because it has a 75 millimeter lens. The price on this unit is $7,999, so right at $8,000. I want to say something. I want to just get this out of the way. It's called a hybrid because the unit, the scope will function as a daytime scope, and in theory, it will also function as a clip-on in front of like a 1-to-6 power daytime optic. Guys, you're not going to use it for that. Do not buy this scope as a clip-on. You buy this scope for what it is. If you decide, you're bored one day and you want to try to go out there and, put this in front of a daytime scope and play around with it, that's fine. That's not what you're buying this for. If you're looking at this, you're watching this review because you're looking for a clip-on, turn the review off. I just would say this scope is really not for you. It is a fantastic dedicated scope. And the reason I would say that about it being a clip-on, it's so big. It's a big, giant scope. It's going to be super awkward hanging out there on the end of your rifle. So anyway, just forget that part of it. But that is why it's called a hybrid. So getting on with these specs, it is a 640 by 512 resolution, 12 microns, 50 hertz refresh rate, sub 25 millikelvin NETD rating. It is, again, as I mentioned, the 75 millimeter f1.0 very fast lens. It is a 4-power base optical magnification. I'm going to say that again. It is a 4-power base. Very, very few 4-power 640 thermal scopes on the market today. Very, very. I'm sitting here thinking about it. I don't know. I don't know of anything. Maybe Trigicon's got something still out there that's not really relevant anymore, but that would be it. I mean, it definitely stands alone there. Field of view, horizontal at 100 yards is going to be 31 feet. So that's pretty narrow. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about that, but you got a 4-power base mag. This is pretty ridiculous, but I actually might believe it. They say that the detection range, that's normally like a 6-foot tall, object, hot object, like a human or something standing up, 3,600 yards.
Wow.
So that is a very, very long ways. Here's the cool thing about it. It's got a huge display. It's a 1.03 inch large format AMOLED display, and it is a 2,560 by 1920 display. So if you're familiar with the Infiray Bolt TH50C, that scope has the 2560 display screen. That's the display that everybody raves about, and that is the same display, 2560 by 1920 in this scope. When it comes to the specs and all the features, guys, it's got everything that you're going to expect it to. I'm going to go over this quick. It's got all the normal color palettes: black hot, white hot, red hot, iron hot, rainbow, outline. It's got 9 different reticles, 7 static, 1 BDC, and 1 DIY, do it yourself. It's got multiple reticle colors, black, red, green, black, red, white, green, and blue. That's a new addition, is the blue. It does come, Hans will show it in a minute, with a quick detach Picatinny rail mount. This mount, I think we need to talk about this mount. You know what? Let's do it right now. This mount is a recoil compensating mount. It's got some springs in there. And I'm just going to tell you this, guys. There's been some complaints from people that don't own this scope about this mount. And the same, this mount that is also on the Infiray Outdoor RS75, the $16,000 1280 scope. Guys, don't know a single person that is owned scope or any of these scopes that have that mount that has any trouble with it or any complaints out of it. Very legitimate mount. I know there's some guys that go, oh, I don't want springs in my mount, whatever. Listen, it's on a $1,000 scope, and we've got some of the most discerning buyers that have bought those scopes. And Hans can attest, we've sold a darn good many of them to guys who are demanding an $18,000 scope and a mount to go with it. Absolutely no complaints out of it. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. We have no issues with that in our opinion whatsoever. Moving along, it is a, let's see, I'm going through my specs here. We're going to talk about the laser rangefinder in just a minute. I'm going to come back to that, give some, a little bit of explanation. There is a laser rangefinder for it. It does have video and audio recording. It has recoil activated recording. It's got, USB-C connector for external power. It comes with 2 battery packs, which is really nice. Glad to get a spare battery pack out of that. You're going to be looking at 6+ hours out of this. So 2 batteries. You're going to go all night long. And we can ask Hans. He just hunted in a all-night contest from 4 p.m. till the next morning. So he made it through with that. It's got a 10-second startup time. It does have a standby mode. It's instant when it comes out of standby. The scope is, here's a doozy right here. It's a big scope. It is 12.2 inches long, basically 4 inches by 3.5 inches. It is 40.8 ounces. So this is a big, heavy scope, but it's got a 75 millimeter lens. It's going to be a big scope. It's gonna weigh something. It's got an aluminum housing. It is an IPS67 rating, which is the fully waterproof submersible to 3 foot for 30 minutes. It's very cool. A dark earth Cerakoted, so that I call it coyote tan, but the tan color, really cool. It works down to -4 degrees, and it's rated for a 300 Win mag or a 7 millimeter mag. And as always, it has the iRay USA 5-year warranty with a 5 business day turnaround time, which basically means they get your scope starting the next day. They have 5 full business days to either repair or replace your scope and then send it back to you. So they'll have your scope for a maximum of about 5 days. So really cool there. Now back to the LRF. So guys, we're early on in this. The laser rangefinder for this unit is not available and released with this scope yet. All right. So I know there's going to be questions about how does it work and all that. It's going to be a small Bluetooth laser rangefinder. We've seen it. We saw it at the SHOT Show. We know that it's going to work very similar to the laser rangefinder that works with the Bolt TH50C and the Bolt TL35. So it's not going to be totally new to us. But what I want to say about it is coming free with this scope. But I'm going to say this is what's going on right now. This is February of 2024. I don't know how this is going to be in the future. My understanding is it will always come with this laser rangefinder. But I'm going to tell you about the current procedure. If you buy this scope right now from Outdoor Legacy, we're going to ship it to you. And it's not going to have a laser rangefinder in it. Those laser rangefinders should be coming available anytime. They might actually be available by the time this show airs. But the way that iRay USA is doing this is they're taking a little different approach. You buy the scope, and there's going to be, I think, in the next batch of scopes, we get supposed to be some information in there about it. The first round or two didn't have this in there. But basically, you're going to take your scope, you're going to go to irayusa.com. You're going to register your scope, enter all your information, including your phone number, and someone from iRay USA is going to call you. They're going to say, thank you for buying the scope. They're going to talk to you, see if they can help you, answer any questions. They're going to get your information, and they're going to send you that free laser rangefinder. So that's not something, again, this is the way it's working. Change that program in the future and stick it in the box. But for now, it's something that they kind of want to do as a way of saying thank you, just, putting a little bit of a personal touch on it. They're going to be supplying that laser rangefinder for free to you. So yes, it does include a laser rangefinder, just not actually in the box with it again today, maybe in the future. So that is it. Again, $7,999. One thing we'd like to do right here in the specs is let's talk about the ID range. Everybody says, what can I realistically expect from an ID range? I've had a lot of time with this, actually. Thankfully, Infiray Outdoor sent us this scope before SHOT Show, so we had it. We'd been able to play with it. We've been around this scope for a while, so we know it just started shipping last couple of weeks, but we've had a lot of time in the field with it. Obviously, Hans is hunted a all-night tournament with it. ID range is insane. I really don't even know what to say. It is. It's. I'm going to say this. On my places, I really can't see past about 550 yards, and it blows that distance out of the water. Hans, I don't know if we're going to go on the record and say an exact range, but what do you say?
No, we're not going to go on the record and say an exact range because it will be. I want to say because it does sound ridiculous. So I've got a Bolt TH50 here. People are very familiar with that 3.5 power, 640 resolution. On that scope, confidently and conservatively, I would say the ID range on a small animal like a coyote, a 30, 40-pound coyote, is going to be anywhere from 400 to 500 yards in what we would call bad weather, a lot of humidity, maybe some light rain, something like that, all the way up to 600 or 700 yards in perfect weather, clear skies. The Hybrid 75 is going to be much further than that. I will say that. As far as the exact yardage, it's hard to say. We do know it's further than the 400 to 600, 700 yard ID range. So if you're looking at a, 800 yard ID range, I don't even want to say 1,000 because that sounds, just in my brain, that sounds dumb. But it's definitely going to be over what the Bolt TH50, and right now the Bolt TH50 has a very far ID range. Like I said, 400 to 600 or 700 yards. This one's going to be more than that. So more than what most people need when it comes to ID in an animal, really in any condition. So with that long ID range, though, as you know, you kind of give up field of view, and we talked a little bit about that. But this is for a specific buyer, and we know that. So I want to show this in comparison. So you've got the Bolt TH50C, a tube style scope, and you've got the Hybrid 75 right here. So this is a 50 millimeter. This is a 75 millimeter scope. And you can say this is a tube style. This is more, I guess, what you would call a traditional style. But look at the 75. This is very clumsy on camera trying to do this. But look at the 75 millimeter objective lens up against the 50 millimeter. Can you see that kind of? This is hard to do. Anyway, I know this looks ridiculous. Yeah, it looks ridiculous. Anyway, so the 75 millimeter objective lens, that didn't work. Anyway, well, that's going in the show. We're not editing that out. All right, first I want to show you the case. So look at this, man. If you're paying $8,000, but goodness, this case is worth about $6,000 worth of that. So
tell your wife that.
Man, you carry this thing around. Like if you walk in, you're going hunting, and you go to the hunting lodge and you walk in with a rifle and this thing, dude, they're going to think you're like Mr. T and Terminator all built into one. Like you're just like you should wear a gold chain and have this. This is the Mac Daddy of thermal scopes, and it comes with a case, comes with an extra battery. Like Jason said, the laser rangefinder is coming later on down the road. This, we talked about the mount. It is a double throw lever locking quick release mount. People talk about springs and all this stuff. Man, I don't care if somebody hot glued beads on the side of it, as long as it works. I don't care what it's got in. This thing, I had it on my brand new American Defense Manufacturing chassis rifle. Thank you, American Defense Manufacturing. This is a 243 20-inch barrel. I'm telling you, it shot lasers. I mean, as far as true shooting, never had an issue. Obviously, taking it on and off to do shows and also do some other videos with it. But you've got that double throw lever, quick release mount, quick detach mount. You got your focus adjustment right here. I really, really like this menu dial. You push it down, it rolls through the menu. This scope does a lot. There's a lot going on here, but I'm going to tell you, it's very, very easy to use. Obviously I use a lot of scopes. I like to do what most men do, and that's get something, turn it on, and don't read the instructions. But I also do that to see how easy it is to kind of figure out. I found it not to be a lot of problem and no problem at all. There's a lot of things in the menu, but they are very self-explanatory, I would say. USB-C port on the side. You got your rail on the side for the laser rangefinder, eyepiece diopter focus, and your rubber eye cup right there. So 75 millimeter objective lens, very big, but very powerful scope.
It really is. I think it looks cool. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big scope, but it looks really cool. I like that. Again, I call it Cody 10, whatever they're calling it, flat dark earth or whatever it is. Good looking scope. So let's talk about some likes and dislikes. Guys, there's no perfect scope, but Hans and I were struggling to come up with some dislikes. I think that it's big. I mean, it's got to be. It's a heavy scope. Okay, and I guess. I mean, you can't put a 75 millimeter 4-power 640 and not have a big scope. And I mean, as you can see there, it's definitely shorter than the Bolt. I mean, it is a big scope, but when you put it next to something like a 30 millimeter tube scope like the Bolt TH50C, you see that it's not really that big. But again, 45 ounces, you're going to know it's there. If you're a guy that's out here worried about the smallest, lightest weight setup, it's probably not for you, but normally guys that are doing that are not the long range guys. Normally guys that are setting up long range, they are, you've got your custom set up the way you want it. And a lot of times you're not worried about weight. You're worried about accuracy and precision. So I don't think that's going to be a big deal. The clip-on mode, like I said, whatever. I just don't think anybody's really going to use that, or most people are. Anyway, that's not what you're buying the scope for. Maybe you've got it and you'll find a way, to make that work and do whatever. But guys, I mean, unless Hans has got something else, I really just don't have a lot of dislikes about this scope.
Yeah, we mentioned, like you said, the size of it, that being the only one. You talked about the clip-on mode. I mean, even when we reviewed the Hybrid 50 and we showed a picture of it, and like, don't try to use this as a clip-on. Obviously, this being a 75 millimeter, definitely wouldn't. I didn't even try it as a clip-on, and I wouldn't waste your time trying to do it. But if you buy this scope, it's because it's a fantastic scope and it meets your need. And in clip-on mode, which it does have, that's definitely not what as far as what you were trying to do it for. I wouldn't mess with that. Other than size, we couldn't find really any dislikes on it. The picture image is great. I used it on a night when it was in the hunting tournament. It was cloudy, rainy all night long, still could see a long way away. His picture image is still good considering how nasty the weather was, and being able to ID at ranges that some of the other scopes that we were hunting with couldn't even touch. So
I think that the likes, image quality, the 4-power, the offering what, in my opinion, not really another scope is out there offering. We're going to kind of get into that in a minute. I think the included laser rangefinder, something that I know Hans and I don't use, but I know so many of you do, or you want to. This is something you want, is that ballistic calculator. And that's built into this scope. And I know that's something that's going to be a really, really big deal for y'all. We're not long range shooters. So we don't need that. But I understand that, again, this scope isn't really for the way we hunt most of the time. I mean, it's just not. So just because the scope's not perfect for me or for Hans doesn't mean we don't realize how awesome it is and what, the people out there that do want it. And I think this scope does excite me a lot because of what it is offering with that image. I mean, here's the thing. They could have made a 4-power scope. All right. Okay, get it. But to have the 4-power, to have the insane image quality, the long ID range, the big display like the Bolt has, to include 2 batteries, to make it look cool that it's tan, to all the things that are going on here, it's just a complete package of a scope. And I'm telling you, I'm going to move here kind of from likes into some overall thoughts. I don't like to make huge, big, sweeping statements, and that can change tomorrow because there could be another scope out tomorrow that's something that's better than this. But I think even comparing this to the RS75 1280 that Infiray Outdoor has, a big 75 millimeter lens, that 1280 image is unlike anything else on the market. It blows this scope away, but it's a 2-power base mag. So when you zoom that RS75 up, you're at 640 4-power, still a great image, but this scope is starting optically with that lens at that 4-power. So you're actually kind of getting something there that you're not getting with that, even that 1280. Again, the 1280 is a 2-in-1 scope. So that's, again, I'm not knocking that, but for a long range guy, in my opinion, this scope makes more sense. It's way less money, and he's starting at that 4-power optical. And so this comment that I'm hesitant to make, but I don't know that there is or has ever been a better long range thermal optic on the market, period. I think this is it. There's some other really, really good 640 scopes out there. There's some that are 3-power, 3.5 power, even like the Bolt, some of the other competitors, and they're really good optics. But nobody's offering this image, this package in a 4-power for the long-range predator hunter. I think this scope stands alone for what it can do.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Jason. I would say arguably the best long-range shooting scope on the market. It is everything I think that the long-range shooter wants. Now, let's talk about who it's good for, platforms, that kind of stuff. If you're shooting rats at 30 yards, don't look at this scope. This is for
50 yards.
Yeah, this is for the person whose average shooting distance is going to be, when we say average, obviously the majority of your shooting is going to be between 175 yards, 200 yards and further. So if your average shooting distance 175, 200 yards and further, then this is the right scope for you. That doesn't mean you can't shoot coyotes or whatever at closer ranges. We had coyotes running in at night and we were shooting them at 20 and 30 yards, but you don't want that to be your normal shot. You don't want to be that your higher than average shot. 175, 200 and beyond, that's the sweet spot. Platforms, I had this mounted as a show on a chassis rifle. Obviously on the AR style rifle, it will work good. On a bolt action rifle, there are some people out there that you see that mount these, I guess we'd call it traditional style thermal scopes on bolt action rifles, and they're just fine. It's a pretty long scope, so there's a good chance it'll work for you. But on a bolt action rifle, I think the tube style scopes probably universally work a little bit better, but that's not to say that this won't work on your bolt action. But worked great on chassis, AR, no problems at all there.
Yeah, I think one thing that you do need to remember, especially on a bolt action, is that 75 millimeter lens is going to cause that scope to sit up a little bit higher. So you need to consider that. Well, number one, you're always trying to get eye relief. That's a big deal on any fixed stock rifle, is trying to get that eye relief. That is the long enough scope. I do think it's possible to get it back there. So it's probably going to work on some bolt guns, but a cheek weld could be a little bit of an issue on on
Hmm.
fixed stock rifles with that 75 millimeter. So that's something to consider. I would definitely. I don't want to say that it won't work on them. It's for sure going to work on, like you said, chassis guns, ARs.
Hmm.
It's a legit
Well,
optic.
you see a lot of people mounting a lot of different thermals on bolt actions that you're like, man, I don't know. That seems like a little bit of a stretch, but I think you'll probably be okay. Anyway, we talked about who it's good for. We talked about, I mean, again, the predator hog hunters at 175, 200 yards and further. I didn't get to my likes, and I'll mention them because they incorporated a lot of yours. But picture image is fantastic. The base magnification is perfect for somebody out there. It is a little bit too much for me, but it was a very nice to take in the predator hunt. Really like the ease of use in the, even though this scope does a lot of different things, the ease of use in the menu was kind of really nice and quick to
Yeah.
understand. I know that when you get to doing, the ballistics compensating within the scope, there's a lot of people that ask about that with every scope. That's a lot, especially long range shooters are going to be interested in that. Being able to do that inside the scope is going to be nice, and we'll be messing with it whenever go to buy your scope and you call us. We're definitely going to be, as soon as this stuff comes out, we're going to be playing with it and testing it. But I really, I mean, more than anything, I would say the picture image on it is very, very good. And in our statement about it being arguably the best long range shooting thermal scope uh, on the market, I think it would be hard to refute it at this point. Now, again, later on down the road, it might change, but this is this scope is not for everybody, but whoever it is good for specifically, it's probably the scope that you've been waiting for. Now, if $7,999, $8,000 is in the budget, that's one thing. But there's a lot of you out there that have been wanting, there's a lot of people that have considered the RS-75 and they're like, man, that seems perfect for a long range, or the Bolt TH50 at 3.5 power. This gives you a little bit more out there. So, again, it's, we want to thank iRay USA because we did get a chance to look at these well before this stuff was launched and released, and we had a chance to play with it. We've got to, if you're watching on the audio only apps out there, Spotify or whatever, iTunes, we've been showing some video. Go check it out. The size of it, compared to the Bolt TH50, been holding it up a little bit, but this is something, like I said, that is created about just as much buzz coming out of the show than any other, optic that was announced.
And understandably so, because as I said, this is the scope that so many people have been waiting for. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this. Hans just mentioned the price again. It's $8,000. I get it. I mean, this isn't the first $8,000 scope we've reviewed. We've reviewed scopes for, 8,000, 9,000, 12,000, 18,000, whatever. And that's there's a buyer for those. And I understand that you say, well, that's out of my budget. But here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first of its kind. And you're not going to get a 75 millimeter germanium lens with a 640 image, a display this big, a 640 image, a 640 sensor, a display this big, a laser rangefinder, ballistic calc. You're not going to get all this right now for less. I mean, it's just maybe in the future, as the technology trickles down in a few years. But I'm telling you, Infiray Outdoor knocked it out of the park with this scope. I hope that you're getting that from this review, that I almost feel a little bit like speechless, like, you got to see this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need high magnification, but the first time I looked through it, I went, oh my goodness. It is beautiful image. And I love it. I mean, again, I could go shoot hogs with it. I don't need 4 power for that, but it looks so good. You're getting so much detail in there. I tell you something else. I think they did a good job on it. I think the Black Hot looks good. I'm not a big Black Hot. I know you like Black Hot. I'm a White Hot guy, but I think the Black Hot looks good. They really, really did a good job with this scope. And so, again, I think we've kind of already said it, but it comes down to, if you're a long range hunter, if that's what you want to do, and that's not always just predators. I mean, I know there's some guys that are doing deer deprivation. There's, they got permits for farms and certain things they've got to do. There are guys who are not just shooting coyotes in the Midwest or out west at 400 yards. I know there's other people that need or want that forepower. I think you just need to be sure when you're looking at a scope like this that you're not in the woods, that you're not out here on a field where you can only see 150 yards. That's not what this scope is made for. There's lots of other, better scopes for the shorter range stuff. But I think that if you're a serious long range predator hunter and this is in your budget, this is the scope for you.
Yeah. So if you're interested in purchasing the Hybrid 75, the Infiray Outdoor Hybrid 75 from Outdoor Legacy, we invite you to give us a call if you have questions. 877-350-1818, outdoorlegacygear.com. You can speak with us directly if you have questions on how this compares to the Hybrid 75, compares to the Bolt TH50 or any other scope out there on the market. We'd love to talk to you about it. Help you, get that pre-purchase buying advice from us directly, from the people that use all these scopes that test. And there's people that call and they're like, well, you invited us to call, so I'm calling, and I know y'all use everything. So, I wish I could go to a store and just look at all these scopes and see for myself. And ideally, that would be, in a perfect world, that would be great. But here's a couple things. There's really not a store that you can go to and do that. But if you did, all you would be doing is looking at scopes in the store. So how does that doesn't give you, across the parking lot. So, the next best thing, other than you getting to hunt with all this stuff yourself and take it out in the woods, is to call people that have used it. And like I said, we invite you to give us a call, 877-350-1818. If you are listening on the audio only apps out there, please give us a like, a thumbs up, a good rating. We would love to do that. That helps when it comes to search optimization, when people are looking for, I don't know if a lot of people do a lot of searching for specifically for night hunting, thermal night vision, hog and coyote hunting shows. But if somebody is out there, it'll help us help them find us easier. Also on YouTube, subscribe. We're growing like crazy over there on the YouTube channel. Thank you for sticking with us through all of the SHOT Show shows, all of the best of shows, all the stuff we do at the end of the year and the beginning of the year. We are back in normal review and topic shows. Had a guy recently give me a good topic for a show. He called in, not to give me a topic. He called in to buy a scope, but he said, hey, y'all should talk about this. And I was like, you know what? That's a great idea. So if you have an idea for a show, drop it in the comments of this, and we will take it into consideration. We've had some wild ideas out there. Some of them we use, some of them we don't use, but we would appreciate if you have any ideas. We will definitely take it into consideration.
So guys, we really appreciate you watching this show. Again, as Hans said, outdoorlegacygear.com, 877-350-1818. Hans and I would love to have your business. That's what keeps this show going. And listen, if you see that we're out of stock on this scope or something else you're looking for, give us a call. I mean, this stuff comes and it goes. Again, we're getting shipments in every day. So give us a call, even if you see it's out of stock. We would love to have your business, and it would mean a whole lot to us. Late Night Vision Show, you can go to thelatenightvisionshow.com, find all about the show. Find us on all the social medias. You can find Hans on all the social medias as well. HANSETX. You can find Outdoor Legacy, same place. You can find, Ashley or other salesmen at ROWEETX, ROWETX on the socials. And guys, we really appreciate you taking the time to watch this. You may have seen this and say, well, they didn't talk about this, or what about that? I've got a question. That's what you call us for. If you're serious about the scope, we're happy to talk to you and answer those questions. I know sometimes people leave detailed questions in the comments, and it's just like it's too much to get into via typing. I mean, if you're interested in a scope like this, it's worth the phone call. You need to talk to somebody that has used it. You don't need to just, there could be one thing that, we didn't say that you hadn't considered. It might not be the right scope for you. So call us. We'll be glad to help. Guys, Hans mentioned it, reviews. We've got so many reviews coming. Every week there's going to be more because we've got so many new optics after SHOT Show. We're going to be in reviews for a good while, but we do want those topic shows. So leave your ideas in the comments for that. We really appreciate y'all. We hope to see y'all again here next week. But between now and then, y'all stay safe in the fields.